Hi, everyone. My name is Lisa Campbell, and I'm the CEO of Lifford Cannabis Solutions. I started off my career years ago working in harm reduction. Over the last decade, I've gone from doing outreach at festivals to handing out crack kits and safer injection kits to speaking at the United Nations and even holding cannabis farmers markets with thousands and thousands of attendees. Now, all these years later, here I am, finally, legally selling cannabis, thousands of kilograms in the first year of legalization. But how did I get here to this point, and how is cannabis disruption? Well, back when I was in my 20s, working as a frontline harm reduction worker in the downtown Toronto needle exchange, I had this revelation. In the needle exchange, I noticed that it wasn't the stereotypical drugs that my clients were having trouble with, like heroin as the stereotype of what a bad drug would be. It was actually drugs like alcohol and prescription drug use, which our clients were having the most struggles with. I had this really interesting moment where I had this Indigenous activist come into the needle exchange, marching in saying, "I'm here and I've got a whole ounce of cannabis and I would like to give out this cannabis to all of your clients." It was an interesting moment. As a cannabis consumer, I totally supported him in that moment. But if I were to let him just give out cannabis in the needle exchange, I probably would lose my job. So instead, I suggested, why don't you go down to the corner? That's where everyone is anyway. You could give it out there. But as an Indigenous person of color, obviously, handing out drugs on the street isn't the safest thing you can be doing. So he threw that back at me, if I do that, I'll probably get arrested. So it was at that moment that I had an epiphany, that sometimes you have to break the rules in order to make change. For my clients, it was very easy to access alcohol. It was very easy to access prescription drugs, which are covered by the Ontario Drug Plan. But accessing cannabis was a whole nother story. And having that drug covered, there was no substitution therapy with cannabis. You could get methadone, but cannabis was not an option, and still not an option. In a perfect world, no one would suffer from addictions, but that's not the world that we live in. People have been using drugs for millennia. Now there's a quiet epidemic brewing in North America. It's been happening for decades and building. Before the opiate epidemic in Canada, it was the alcohol crisis that took far more lives and continues to hurt communities across Canada. Now in the United States, alcohol deaths are surpassing opiates. At the dawn of cannabis legalization, it's critical that we examine how cannabis can be harm reduction. The world is finding itself in the midst of this opiate crisis, and it's looking for solutions. Just in the last 2 weeks, the World Health Organization has done a review of cannabis, and it's going to be presenting its results the first week of December. This spring, member states from all around the world are coming together in Vienna for the Commission on Narcotic Drugs to vote on rescheduling cannabis globally. This is a huge point in history, and it's an opportunity to have a radical paradigm shift globally. I believe that legalizing cannabis is the most disruptive solution to the global opiate epidemic, which has taken thousands of lives and continues to take lives. In addition to lowering opiate prevalence, cannabis is proven to lower alcohol use in states where it's legal. Recently, a survey showed in the Global just commissioned a survey with Ipsos, saying that it found that almost half of Canadians that consume cannabis are going to be reducing their alcohol use now that cannabis is legal. Even opiates are taking thousands and thousands of lives every year. And when you look at alcohol, more people go to the hospital for alcohol than heart attacks in Canada every year. So it's obvious that these two substances are much more harmful than cannabis, and it's continuing to rise. New studies are coming out around alcohol use that say that even in small moderation doses, alcohol is still a carcinogenic, no matter how little you consume. So why is it illegal to advertise cannabis, but everywhere we look, we can see posters, billboards, TV ads, Instagram ads daily normalizing alcohol? Many of these ads target women, and we now know with the new data coming out from the States that women are the most at risk, as well as young women. So how is it that cannabis products can have these big yellow warning labels all over them, but alcohol products are colorfully branded, sometimes even with cartoons? If we truly want to battle both the opiate and alcohol epidemics, we must be able to market cannabis as an alternative to alcohol. This is especially true as new non-smokable products come out onto the market. Edibles, beverages, extracts. In the coming month, Health Canada will be revealing the proposed guidelines for cannabis derivative products, and we're super excited to see what the future brings. As well, we have to find safe spaces for cannabis consumers to use these products in social spaces. In Ontario, we're lucky enough that we can consume out on the street, but if we can have bars on every single corner, why not cannabis lounges? Why not create safe spaces, just like how we have safe injection sites, where cannabis users can come together and share, which is now legal. You can share up to 30 grams legally with your friends, which is pretty cool. So the problem is, with cannabis everywhere now in Canada, there's still not enough of it to go around. In the news daily, we see headlines that we're running out of cannabis. In Alberta, the stocks are bare. In Ontario, you're lucky if it arrives in the mail on time. So with these shortages in the news, it's about time that we start to look at how we can open up our borders and create a new global industry that can completely disrupt the opiate epidemic and the alcohol industry. We know that cannabis is harm reduction, and I'm so happy that Canada is the first G7 country to legalize it. Thank you.